Right, well I thought it was about time for a proper update for my railway. Let's explain everything that's happened recently. Before I go into that though, I think it's important I explain so what I'm doing makes sense to anybody who is interested, that this layout is currently it's in the larger of two spare bedrooms in my house. It can't stay here forever. The room is going to be required for other things eventually. And once I finish converting my loft over, the layout will be moving upstairs. Hence why everything has been made to be no more than 2 feet wide, so it can go through the old loft hatch and upstairs. The boards are split down the middle. Try and find somewhere you can see it. Might be able to just about see it down here. This line. Where they're actually split, so they're only 2 foot wide. The whole layout's only 4 feet wide, and currently the layout's 12 foot long, which, as you can probably see, is as long as actually fits into the room. Once we go upstairs, there'll be a bit more room, so it may get a little bit longer if there is the room to do that. But that's the whole kind of purpose of why I'm building it the way I'm building it, so that I'm not wasting time and money. It will come apart without any damage and be able to be reconstructed upstairs without hopefully too much effort. That's the way it's been designed anyway. So moving on to what's changed, let's start with what I've taken off the board. I've tied down really the period I'm going to model, which is kind of 2000 upwards, so all of this stuff has come off the board. There's a lot of freight wagons. They were sat in the rear freight loop at the back of the layout underneath the upper tracks. These two QXR tankers, which were sat with my Class 08 on a siding that no longer exists. These three locomotives, well, four locomotives, sorry, they're all a bit too old really for what I'm modelling. And then these cheap plastic cars aren't much cop, but they were just there to fill up the layout for now. All of that stuff really is from my railway when I was a kid. So it's all quite old stock, and it isn't that detailed, and it isn't really what I'm looking for now. So that's all come off, and we'll pack it away. The siding that's gone was in the top section there. It's probably going to be covered by a hill now, that's why it's gone, because it's going to be defunct basically. And the Class 08's moved down into the yard. The EWS van there I brought recently, that was to replace those QXR tankers because I didn't think they were really very appropriate. And then the three locomotives that are definitely staying on the layout are those three there, the 66, the 92 and the Class 08. New addition to the layout as well, little transit van, Network Rail one. It was a Christmas present, which is quite nice. There are a couple of older bits of stock still on the layout, purely because you know, not everything got rebranded as soon as everything went over to privatisation. So you know, there was still old bits of stock outstanding, and I don't think those are too inappropriate. That goes the same for the other new addition to my layout, which is this Sprinter Class 150. It's a Christmas present again. It's a nice model. It's already DCC chipped, ready for when I do swap over eventually. And then there's still the three DMUs you've seen before, which is my little 158 Central Trains, the 170 Cross Country, and the Class 168 Chiltern Railways. Now, you may have seen in previous videos the passing loops up the back. There are two lines that run underneath the rear tracks and run down, and they reconnect in back underneath the other end there. Now you might just about be able to see in the darkness under there. It's not very clear unfortunately, but the Virgin 221 is now parked in that back siding, where all those freight wagons used to be parked, and the Bachmann intermodals are still in the other side in there. So really I've got all the right stock on the layout now. The stock looks a little bit barer, but then that's not the end of the world. Let's finish putting this back, because it can look over the top, I guess, if you have too much. So that's where everything's being stored. It just allows, with the Virgin one out of the way, a bit more room for operating the other trains. Now something else that's really come along was a bit bad. I never really showed how I made this section up, but is this end section here, which covers the curves at this end of the board. We'll come back to that power clip in a minute. We've got a problem there. It's basically just constructed out of a bit of 3mm MDF, which is what all the flat surfaces are, some mounting card which I got from the range, and those tubes are just bits of old kitchen foil tubes, so but they certainly did the job. I mean, it was nothing to put that together. The grey card sheet was £2.99, and then the sheet of blue card was £2.99 as well, and I already had the bit of MDF, and obviously the tubes didn't cost me anything, so yeah, it cost me a whole £6 to put the actual sort of cover itself together. Now these old buildings which you've seen before are again from childhood railway, but there are some new additions up the top here. I brought myself these Metcalfe terraced houses, they're low relief, and built those, and the little Corsa that's parked in front of them. The shops were another Christmas present which I've made up, and I brought the little Land Rover Discovery parked on the curb outside the estate agents, relatively appropriate. So that's everything that's changed basically, and why I'm doing it the way I am doing it, and why certain things are kind of temporary so they can all be removed from the board. Moving forwards, I've got plans for a hill this end of the board. Not exactly sure how that's going to work, but that's why the siding's gone, because it would have been of no use. And there'll be a lot more buildings on this end of the board. Final thing to talk about is just power. The layout's run on DC at the moment, and so we come back to this power clip. Unfortunately, one of my controllers was a Hornby one, and it packed up, so I've only got one controller on the layout, so I've got the power clip out, so I can swap between the two lines and run different trains, which is nowhere near ideal, but what I'm going to do, I'll have to wait until payday, but I'm going to get another Gauge Master controller the same, but then I'm going to also wire that head shunt off a switch off one of the controllers, so that I can power the lines down in the yard and call the three locomotives out of the yard, so that they can pull the Bachmann intermodals and the Class 08 can run round. After that we're probably down to point motors, but that's going to be much later this year. As I say, the two kind of scenic ends are going to get worked on. We'll get the power sorted out, and then go from there. So that's the plans moving forwards, and probably the next thing will be that end gets developed more, because I'm going to get some more buildings and what have you to go up there. So that'll probably be in the next update.